Hey everybody, welcome back to another news roundup. Hope you guys been enjoying the content channel as of late and talk about your news because this is big. This is pretty big. Um, so obviously, this video will be coming out in a few days. You guys probably know by now, but today actually, this is like hot off the press. I literally am, I just kind of sat with it for a little bit, and now I'm gonna do a video just because I feel how I feel. So apparently, as you guys probably know, Warner Brothers has been up for sale for a few months, and there have been some bids going on this past week, namely from Paramount. Comcast was there, as well as a few streaming services here and there, namely Netflix. And for a while, it seemed that Paramount was seemed like the favorite over the studio, but in a little bit of an upset, in terms of just how the whole thing was going. Uh, at least from the outside, once you actually look into it, it's actually a little bit more understanding as to why they went with what they went with. It seems like, as far as we can tell, Netflix may in fact be obtaining assets of Warner Brothers. And they have now entered exclusive talking deals with the company. So now it's no longer, just bids. Now it's more like, okay, let's now do an actual, documentations, papers, contracts, all that. So we may or may not, by the time this video comes out or in a few weeks from now, we may or may not know if, Netflix does obtain some of these assets. Now, that's the very key thing to point out very, very quickly here up front is that Netflix is not buying out the whole company. Okay. Paramount had those intentions with their bid, but Netflix came in and only wanted certain aspects of the company, namely Warner Brothers Studios, which is basically their movie division, and HBO Max, which is their streaming business. And those are the things that they are now actively discussing moving forward in the next few weeks. And this is not a finalized deal, at least by the time I put this video out, I assume it still won't be a finalized deal. So everything is still kind of in flux, but Netflix, it seems, is the favorite over at Warner Brothers. So just so you also understand, giving some context to the whole thing, Paramount had sought, according to Variety, they sought to acquire the entire company in an all-cash deal, while both Netflix and Comcast only submitted bids for certain aspects of the company, namely the company's studio and their streaming businesses. And Paramount came in first as the bidder, and they were actually they were very adamant on it too. There were I think 3 bids from the company, roughly $27 per share for the whole of the company, and the whole bidding saw some higher offers apparently about in Monday, and this morning apparently Paramount. This is where again I understand why they probably made the choice to favor Netflix over Paramount. Paramount apparently went public and started accusing Netflix of impropriety, and saying that they're favoring certain companies and such, and it just doesn't look great on their part, especially since you're in this bidding war. It's like you shouldn't be making comments like this, especially very publicly. But I guess Netflix had a higher share offer in $28, and I believe it was mostly in cash from their end. So with the tension, that or the passion that was coming from Paramount, and then all of a sudden just just the way they were talking down to the company afterwards, saying this and that, you could see why Warner Brothers was probably more swayed to talk to Netflix than Paramount at the end of the day. So now, there are obviously a few things to take into account when it comes to this deal. And there's three things that come to mind, and they all are valid, all of which are potentially going to happen in the future if Netflix were to secure these assets. So obviously the two big questions that come from this is what will happen to Warner Brothers Studios and what will happen to HBO Max. So let's start with Warner Bros. Studios because that's, I think, the biggest point of conversation. I've seen a lot of responses already to this where people are very negatively responding to this because there is the presumption that Netflix, at least as far as I'm reading it, that Netflix potentially could reignite that same-day release strategy that Warner Brothers, rolled out on their own turf, with HBO Max during the pandemic and stuff, and how that kind of really affected things for a lot of companies, or how that affected a lot of theatrical releases and people's interest, and then with streaming being integrated into the people's mindsets and seeing how that affects a lot of the value in the theatrical experience as a whole. And that's a lot of the struggles also coming from now, with decisions like that were made back then, which, again, as I said before in the past, talking about that whole HBO Max thing, it was a bad decision and it really did affect a lot of things, industry-wise. But it was also like they had no choice in the matter. Either they delay their projects and they balloon up in terms of budgets and stuff like that, or they release them now and try to do what they can with trying to get as much money as possible during the heights of the pandemic. So they had no choice in the matter. But now, with Netflix now potentially being being the owners of that division, there's risk that strategy could be reignited again. And that is totally valid, and I totally can see where people are coming from on that end because Netflix obviously wants to be able to satisfy their own platform. So they may, in fact, try to split the difference, between that of streaming and a theatrical release. And obviously, if that were the case, I think that I could totally understand the large kind of negativity that I've been seeing, at least in terms of like just firsthand responses, just seeing what I've been seeing coming in the past, just right now, I could see why people would be very negatively looking at this. Apparently, even people in the industry themselves are not for Netflix getting the company either, or at least certain assets. There's people like filmmakers and producers who are apparently talking to Congress right now because there's a whole legality behind this as well that's going to take into effect. So, even if Netflix comes up on top, even if they do go with Netflix, which seems to be the case at this point, at least we'll see how it all plays out. It's going to take a couple years, for this to really be finalized and stuff like that. Like maybe like 2 or 3 years down the line. And if Netflix were to take Warner Brothers' theatrical slate and just say, hey, let's just split the difference. I think that in Warner Brothers' part, especially because, right now they're going to be talking about how things are going to be handled and how much they're going to benefit and all that stuff. I think that if Warner Brothers looks at Netflix and sees that they are going to replicate what they ended up doing with their HBO Max thing, I think that, and just being okay with that, I think that that's incredibly dumb on their part. If that is indeed what would happen with their division, if Warner Bros. Studios ends up, or if their theatrical slate ends up becoming a part of a same-day release strategy, I think that is very dumb on their part if that is something that is allowed or is something that they are just okay with, So that's the big part about this. That's the big part that has people worried, I think, is that they're worried that because of that, the theatrical experience can become a lot more damaged as a result, And I don't think, though, in the same vein, Warner Brothers, when they first came out with their HBO Max strategy and everybody else followed suit, I don't think that would happen again, though, because you have to have results to back that up. And in the case of that HBO Max strategy, there was not many results to validate that whole business model. So that's why pretty much all companies have abandoned it, For Netflix's case, though, they are a streamer, they are a platform, and they have to be able to satisfy their own platform. So I can see why they would go about it that way. Would it be the best decision for them in the long run? No, because even then, their streaming service still suffers, and they still don't make a lot of returns on investments. I mean, look at this year with films like The Electric State. We know the game when it comes to streaming. We know when they don't release numbers on their end when it comes to their platforms. We know that means that it's not doing well, So that's a big concern. I totally see where people can come from on that end. Other fears include, what happens to HBO Max? What happens to that whole division? Do they just kill it? Does Netflix just kill themselves? Or do they merge the two platforms together and they create a brand new service? There's so many ways that can go about. But the one thing, the way that I think that makes this work, and I think it's the smartest thing that Netflix can do if, this in fact goes through, is extend out their theatrical experience through Warner Brothers' slate. Don't just do a same-day release strategy. I see where people can see that happening because, again, they have to be able to satisfy their own platform. So I can see where that might be more enticing for them. But I just think that if you were to extend out your theatrical experience and have a first-day release, or at least when it comes to post, theatrical distribution, having their platform be the sole home for those movies, I think that you will actually provide yourself more income, whereas splitting the difference, because streaming it's not viable. We have proven this already, through that HBO Max strategy. So, there's that. And I think that if they were to go about it in that way, if they went at it with just having the theater, because all streaming platforms have been trying to branch out into the theaters because, streaming, as we know, is just not valuable when it comes to major tentpoles. We've seen people like Apple and Amazon, Netflix also trying to branch out into the theatrical experience, and it just doesn't work out for them. And a lot of it, I think, is also just to do with what it is, and hesitations about how much profit they can make off of the theatrical experience. A lack of confidence, I think, in some regard. So having a slate from Warner Brothers that has things like The Batman Part 2 or, whatever else is coming down the pipe for them, but I don't know, anything else coming down the pipe, I think is going to show a lot more value as a result and extend out the company, into a theatrical medium and not be hindered or having to favor their own platform and their own release models there. So that's the way to do, I think the best way to do it, but we just don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. And, I absolutely understand the trepidation. I absolutely understand the fear, from both the industry and just the online community. But I think that in the end, extending out the theatrical experience is probably more beneficial than what may be with the same day release strategy. I mean, look at Warner Brothers, that it literally didn't work. So why would you go down that route anyway? So we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen, but we'll have to wait and see. We'll not know for a couple of years. So we'll see. But you guys, let me know your thoughts on Netflix potentially getting Warner Brothers, at least specific assets in the company. You guys, let me know. Do you guys feel like it's a good decision? Do you guys feel like it's a good choice? Paramount they shot themselves in the foot. They should not have been talking smack this morning and being so aggressive with their bidding. It's just like, no, that's not how you win over a company. But you guys let me know. I mean, did you think Paramount would have been a better choice? I know the political conversations also from there, because the Trump administration we talked about with Rush Hour 4 and other stuff there. It's like some people were probably very happy that didn't happen. But you guys let me know all your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.